All right, guys, two things in this video we're going to talk about today that I really like. Really cool, powerful LiPo batteries that give me that high performance out of my airsoft gun that I want. And then G36s. I absolutely love G36s. I absolutely love really powerful 11.1 volt LiPo batteries. That together creates, at least for me, a really high performance airsoft gun. However, the problem with the G36 is that, there's not a whole lot of battery storage available in the handguard where the battery traditionally goes. Now, if you want to go the untraditional route or a different route, you can get a M4 stock, or you can get a G36 stock that actually has the battery storage in the rear. Now, that's super cool and all, but I really like the current G36 style stock, or the traditional G36 style stock that I have on both of my guns. That being said, today we're going to talk about how to get as close to performance of an 11.1 volt LiPo that you can with a 7.4 volt LiPo. We'll be utilizing some of the features on the Gate Titan to go about doing this. So these high performance 11.1 volt LiPos that give us the awesome trigger response, the rate of fire, etc., the ultimate performance that us techs want out of our highly upgraded airsoft guns, just is not going to fit in the battery container of this G36. This battery is just way too large, and it has 3 cells, and it's got plenty of storage to it, and it's got pretty good discharge to it. So it's just not going to fit on this G36. It needs a full stock, and I really don't want to do that. I don't want to rewire my Gate Titan to the rear, and I don't want to buy an extra stock to do that. So we're going to use a 7.4 volt LiPo to get as close to the trigger response of this 11.1 volt LiPo, or that this 11.1 volt LiPo would supply to this gun, as possible. So I know it's not really cool to run 7.4 volt LiPos. All the cool techs out there, and me included, I wouldn't consider myself a cool tech, but I do run 11.1 volt LiPos in almost all of my guns. So this will be interesting. We're going to try to change the settings on our Gate Titan to get some really awesome trigger response, to get some really awesome performance that you would traditionally only see out of an 11.1 volt LiPo. So let's break open the Gate Titan programming app on my phone over here and do our best to program this G36 to get it as close to that performance of a high-powered 11.1 volt LiPo as possible. Just a couple of specs on this G36 real quick. I've not talked about this one a whole lot on my YouTube channel, so that's what we'll do now. Currently, it has a 28 TPA Franken-Torque style motor in it with a neodymium can, so it's a very, very torquey motor. It's a very, very reliable and consistent motor, but it's very, very slow. So traditionally, you run 11.1 volt LiPos with these types of motors, and that was my intention originally building this gun. But again, battery space is extraordinarily limited. So we've got that 28 TPA motor, we have some 13:1 ratio gears, we have a 7mm JG gearbox shown here, which I have bushings in place for. And then I also, like I said, the 13:1 ratio gears, I have about an M110 spring in here, short stroked by, I believe, 2 teeth. And then I have a Gate Titan V3. We'll have plenty of settings to play with on this advanced Gate Titan V3. To get that performance of this 11.1 volt LiPo. We're going to try to match trigger response. First of all, I know I'm not going to be able to match rate of fire. This gun is in burst mode only, and pretty much everywhere I play now is semi-auto only. So what I want is ultimate trigger response out of this 7.4 volt LiPo. I want people to think that it has an 11.1 volt LiPo in it, when it really only has a 7.4. So let's break open the Gate Titan app, and let's make those changes real quick. All right, so now we're going to program our Gate Titan for optimal 7.4 volt performance in terms of trigger response. So what you'll need is this Blue Link by Gate, or you can use their USB connector adapter for your PC. I find that this works a lot better. The PC adapter is kind of finicky. Sometimes it works great, other times it's just a little finicky. So I'm using the Blue Link today. It's the easiest to demonstrate with, and I like it the most. So plug it up to your gun first, then plug it up to your battery second. You'll hear that initiation beep, which is the Gate Titan telling you you're all good to go. So now we'll use the Gate Control Station app, skip registration, and come to our Blue Link Connect. Connect ETU, and we'll go check out our settings. So we'll start in the general category real quick. We'll just go down the line. I do run a little bit of battery protection. I feel like everybody should, especially on these Gate Titans. You might as well. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but in this build, I do. Cycle detection is on, obviously. Gear speed, I set all single stroke sector gear builds to normal speed ratio gears. On DSG, I do program it for dual sector gear, but I have found that using normal speed programming in your gear ratio category does get you the best performance when you're running any type of speed or any type of ratio single sector gear stroke build. My active braking is set to adaptive, that's okay. And we'll come down to trigger. Now this is where the build is really going to shine. Come to your trigger preferences here and you see that you can program the distance at which the trigger has to be pulled to initiate a cycle. And you kind of see here the gun is in a just programming mode, so no shooting is active here. And then we pull the trigger and we cross the gate pretty easily. Just barely any pull. And this is what G36s are pretty notorious for, is a very long trigger pull. So this Gate Titan allows you to have a very, very, very short trigger pull, and that'll give you some really quick access to follow-up shots on the field. And if you don't want to slide this little bar here, you can always go here and actually program numerically how far the trigger pull is away. So that's what I have mine set to. You can go shorter or you can go longer. It's totally a preference. So now we come to pre-cocking. Now this is the money right here. So I always use manual pre-cocking mode. I don't use adaptive. You can if you want, but I feel like manual is the most reliable. And it's gonna be different for every gun, so don't let my settings dictate your settings here. In this setup, I have found that 30 milliseconds is pretty much where my gun needs to sit to give it as little feeding, or give it no feeding problems, to give it no double feeds, to give it no misfeeds, to give it absolutely no BBs rolling out the end of the barrel. I have found that 30 milliseconds is perfect for both semi and the burst function that I have attached to full auto. Now, again, this is something you gotta play with. This is something you gotta find the perfect mix. And don't just, program it for how it mechanically performs, program it for how it truly performs. Once you get the right, or once you feel like you have the right programming down, put some BBs in the magazine and try and see if it feeds perfectly. If it doesn't, you might need to come back or maybe even go up just a little bit. But set your pre-cocking for how well your gun actually performs, not just mechanically, but fully. So these are my settings. Everything else is pretty typical. My selector settings, I wish I did have binary here. That would be pretty spectacular, but I do not. So I just have safe, semi, and burst. And I can change the burst mode for, however many BBs I want. We're gonna go with 3 right now. And then working my way down, nothing else is really, important for this. Everything else is pretty standard. So that being said, my settings are saved. Let's actually try this out with a magazine full of BBs. All right, so we have the G36 programmed. I have a magazine with some BBs in it. We're gonna test it out and see how good the performance is in terms of trigger response. I think we're gonna be happy with it. I think it's gonna perform awesome. I think it's gonna be a great close quarters setup. So safety on, obviously. I got the goggles on. I'm in a safe area, because if I don't say these things, YouTube will demonetize the video. So on semi-auto, we got the magazine in, pre-cock settings are set up. Let's see what it sounds like. Right, out of ammo. That sounds pretty awesome. The pre-cocking there is pretty stellar. And the trigger response is awesome as well for a 7.4 volt LiPo. I think we have accomplished our goal. So with that 7.4 volt LiPo, we were able to program our Gate Titan for some pretty good settings to get some really awesome trigger response and some really good burst functionality as well. Now, would all that be faster with an 11 volt LiPo? Yes. Would it be a little more unreliable? Also yes. But, that's okay. That's kind of the trade-off here, is that, I have all these 7.4 volt LiPos. I never get to use them. They fit wonderfully into all my guns because they're all so small, because only 2 cell. But I tend to use 11 volt LiPos for their performance, when a lot of times I can get very similar, at least trigger response performance. And for the most part, that's really all I care about, because I play mostly indoors nowadays, and everywhere I play is semi-auto anyway. So if I can get the same or pretty darn close trigger response with a 7.4 volt as I can with the 11 volt LiPo battery, I might as well do that, especially if it more easily fits into all my guns. All right, guys, that's gonna have to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more airsoft tech themed content. Like this video and comment down below about what you guys think of this setup. But that's gonna have to do it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I will see you guys in the next video of whatever the heck I'm doing next time. But until then, stay tuned, techs.